Hello, and thank you for viewing our presentation on protecting the east sector of Harrison Hot Springs, British Columbia. This presentation is an updated version of the one given to Harrison Village Council in May of 2011. The east sector of Harrison Hot Springs consists of 3 pieces of land. To the north are approximately 75 acres held by Kingma Brothers, a land development corporation. To the west are 80 acres held by the village of Harrison Hot Springs, and to the south and east are 240 acres of Crown Provincial land. Together, they make up the East Sector Special Planning Area of Harrison Hot Springs. All of the land, with the exception of the eastern slopes, is in the Agricultural Land Reserve of British Columbia. Our group, the Friends of the East Sector, is a group of concerned citizens of Harrison Hot Springs and the neighboring district of Kent. Our goals are to protect the East Sector Special Planning Area and to designate it as a natural park. Why do we want to do that? Because there really isn't very much forested land left on the floor of the Fraser Valley, either in British Columbia or in northern Washington state. Here we can see that there is a little bit left on the endowment lands of the University of British Columbia, one big area called Burns Bog in Delta, both in the far west of the valley, and the 395 acres at the eastern end of the valley in Harrison Hot Springs. Other areas which appear forested are on mountainsides such as Sumas Mountain in Abbotsford and Chilliwack Mountain, and are currently being developed. The east sector is the only forested land on the valley floor which is also connected to the mountainous forests of British Columbia. We see that even within Harrison Hot Springs, our trees are disappearing outside of the east sector. These 2 images of the village were taken several years apart. On the left is an image taken in about 1998 by Wait Air Photos Inc. On the right is a much more recent image. It can be seen we've lost the majority of trees just east of Hot Springs Road at the southern end where the holiday parks are, and also at the northern end where McCombs Drive turns into Eagle Street and along Miami River Drive. So it behooves us to take good care of the forested areas that are left. The second reason we want to protect this land is that it's habitat. In 1998, a local environmental group commissioned a biological survey of the east sector. This survey was carried out by Dennis Knopp, a well-known local naturalist. He found many different habitats in the east sector: young and mature coniferous deciduous forest, pure coniferous forest, the unvegetated cliff sides, 2 watercourses, a sphagnum bog, seasonal wetlands, and 2 rare plant communities, the black cottonwood Sitka willow and black cottonwood red osier dogwood, which is at the northern end. This slide shows some of the mature forest of the east sector. Old trees covered in mosses and lichens, ferns growing out of the moss-covered floor of the area. Very quiet and serene. Here we have one of the big cottonwoods, ferns growing out of the side. And here is part of the Miami River with its wide riparian zones, a beautiful watercourse which runs through the east sector. It is filled with all sorts of aquatic creatures. This habitat is used. The biological survey in 1998 found 48 species of birds, 16 species of mammals, and 10 species of other animals such as amphibians, reptiles, fish, and butterflies. But other people have also gone into the east sector and recorded other species present there. These records document a further 81 species of birds, 16 species of mammals, and 30 more species of the others. All of these species use the east sector for homes, water, and/or food. Here we have just 25 of the bird species of the east sector. Across the top are various delightful little yellow birds, starting with the American goldfinch, various warblers, and the common yellowthroat on the top right. The second row includes the bright western tanager with its startling red head and the ruby-crowned kinglet. In the center of the third row is a barn swallow, which is now blue listed in British Columbia. On the far right is the band-tailed pigeon, which has a very distinctive aerial courtship display. The fourth row starts with a gorgeous cedar waxwing and the elegant great blue heron, also a blue listed species. Then we have various woodpeckers and the almost gaudy black-headed grosbeak. On the bottom left is the ridiculously beautiful wood duck, and on the right the quite dowdy ruffled grouse, which nonetheless has an elaborate strutting and thumping breeding display. Here we have some of the other animals of the East Sector: beaver and mink, coyote and deer. The little Douglas squirrel is rapidly being replaced by the gray squirrel. There's a chipmunk, a Trowbridge shrew, which is blue listed, and a veined white butterfly. Then there are the green and red-legged frog, which is red listed in British Columbia, bear and western red-backed salamander, and various butterflies, skippers, and moths. Here we have some fish of the Miami River: the red shiner on the top left, young chinook and coho smolts. On the second line, the large scale sucker, prickly sculpin, and three-spine stickleback. And on the bottom right, the blue listed cutthroat trout, and finally the red listed Salish sucker. I want to talk a little bit about this creature, the Pacific water shrew, a very nifty little guy that can walk on water. Well, okay, run on water. This species is red listed in British Columbia and inhabits elevations below 600 meters. In other words, we can't just cut down all the forest on the valley floor and expect that the Pacific water shrew will move up the mountainside, because it needs moist coastal forests that include skunk cabbage marshes with an abundance of shrubs and coarse woody debris. Skunk cabbage marshes don't exist up the mountainsides because there just isn't enough flat land for a marsh. Further, these guys are threatened by cats, so if the East Sector is developed, people will move in with their pet cats, and these will catch and eat Pacific water shrew. The Pacific water shrew needs safe, wide riparian zones. Some suggest up to 100 meters in width. Here we can see that the East Sector does include skunk cabbage marshy areas and is very suitable habitat for the Pacific water shrew. Just a reminder then of the other endangered species found in the East Sector. The Salish sucker and the red-legged frog are both red listed, and the other four, the cutthroat trout, great blue heron, barn swallow, and Trowbridge shrew, are all blue listed. Acting to preserve the East Sector will help preserve these endangered species as well. This lovely woodpecker, the Lewis woodpecker,